Okay, we'll call this meeting to order. Regular council meeting for Monday, July the 11th. We'll begin with a land acknowledgement. The town of Innisfail acknowledges that we are meeting on Treaty 7 territory, the ancestral and traditional territory of the Blackfoot Confederacy, Kainai, Piikani, and Siksika, as well as Tsuut'ina First Nation and Stoney Nakoda First Nation. We acknowledge that this territory is home to the Métis Nation of Alberta Region 3 within the historical Northwest Métis homeland. We acknowledge the many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit who have lived in and cared for these lands for generations. We are grateful for the traditional knowledge keepers and elders who are still with us today and those who have gone before us. We make this acknowledgement as an act of reconciliation and gratitude to those whose territory we reside on. So we'll move on to 2.1. Are there any additions or deletions? No? Okay, could I please have someone make a motion to adopt the agenda?
I'll make that motion, Mayor Barkley.
Thank you, Councillor Maceras. All in favor? Okay, move on to 3.1, the regular council meeting of June 27th.
I'll move those minutes, Mayor Barkley.
Thank you, Councillor Bates. All in favor? Okay, and then the agenda and priorities meeting of July the 4th. Somebody make a motion.
Mayor Barkley will make that motion.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Dunham. All in favor? Perfect. And we will move into 4.1, CEO report with CEO Becker.
Thanks, Mayor Barkley. Administration is asking consideration of council to approve the November 3rd and 4th Transition Accelerator Training Program, as we chatted about over the last few meetings. We have firmed up with Transition Accelerator that those dates are available for council to affirm their enrollment with that training. Also looking for council to formally adopt the 2022 to 2025 strategic plan for your consideration. Certainly take any questions, and if you want to make any adjustments, certainly can do so, but just a reminder of council, it is a fluid open document and will be reviewed periodically, with the first dive likely to come into the mid to later part of August to kind of go back into the plan as we advance into the 2023 budget deliberations. Also, outside of this report, looking for council direction, consideration of the cancellation of the July 18th agenda and priorities meeting, which is next Monday. Just looking to see if you're willing to support that recommendation, which we often do during the summer months, cancel the odd. Most typically the A&P meetings based on what is before you, recommended by administration. So again, just going into the report, looking for, again, explaining the Transition Accelerator training, just looking for motion if you're willing to firm up that training. And again, if you want to go into the plan, certainly looking for any questions or advice regarding the STRAP plan. If you're ready to do so, then ask for your consideration.
Okay, thank you, CEO Becker. Could I please have someone make the first motion?
I'd so move, Mayor Barkley, that council participates in the November 3rd and 4th, 2022 Transition Accelerator Training Program with council's registration fees up to $4,500 to be funded from council contingency.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Harrison. Any questions, discussions? Okay, all in favor? Okay, carried. And then second motion is that council adopts the Town of Innisfail Strategic Plan 22 to 25.
I'll move that council adopts the Town of Innisfail Strategic Plan 2022 to 2025.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Bates. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor? Okay, then I would have someone make a motion, please, to cancel the July 18th A&P meeting.
I'll make that motion, Mayor Barkley.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Ms. Harris, or Miss Harris. We were just discussing that, weren't we? Okay, all in favor? Thank you. And then someone to please make a motion to approve the CEO report.
Mayor Barkley, I'll make that motion. The council approves the Chief Administrative Officer report dated July 11, 2022 as information.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Dunham. All in favor? Okay. We'll move on to 4.2, request for decision on the Town of Rocky Mountain House resolution request with CEO Becker.
Thanks, Mayor Barkley. As you can see in the report, the Town of Rocky Mountain House has submitted an email to the legislative coordinator asking for council consideration to support their motion titled the Cannabis Excise Tax Revenue Sharing to be sent to Alberta municipalities 2022 Fall Convention. So every year, the AM, Alberta Municipalities, issues out information to municipalities asking for consideration to submit resolutions based on council's advocacy efforts locally. Town of Rocky Mountain House wishes to be the primary center of a resolution just regarding, as mentioned, the title of the draft resolution, but really they're wishing to have AM lobby the government to get access to some of the revenues that is generated through the cannabis legislation. As you see in the report, there was, as the province initiated the cannabis program, they came up with the Municipal Cannabis Transition Program, where municipalities receive 2 years of grant funding based, I think it's based on per capita. We received, just shy of $25,000 in the first year, and just shy of $20,000 in 2019. So Rocky Mountain House is stating we should get more revenue from the revenue generated from the cannabis piece. So the resolution through the AM requires a seconder, and a normal process is that a municipality would request another municipality to act as a seconder on the motion just to grant status to that resolution. Then it'd be sent to AM to see if it complies with their policy. Respecting the fact this draft policy or resolution is outside of the date, they have permission to still submit it, but it's up to AM then to vet that policy or that resolution to ensure it lines up with their policy. So the date has been confirmed that they can still submit, although it's outside of that date of the end of May, I believe. So if council wishes to do so, there's a couple options for you to consider through the recommended motion. One is to move into act as seconder of the town Rocky Mountain House resolution, or not. So it's really quite simple. So I'll leave it to you, council, if there's any questions for clarity and process and the wording. I'd be happy to help you.
Thank you, CEO Becker. I'm going to make a motion that we decline the invitation from the Town of Rocky Mountain House to act as a seconder to the Cannabis Excise Tax Revenue Sharing Resolution that was presented to AM at the 2022 Fall Convention. And my reasons for this, we obviously want to always get more money from the province, but to me this is a very small amount, and I think we're in the middle of advocating for the local government fiscal framework money, and it's a much larger pot of money and certainly more important to us, and this could be part of that conversation, but I also believe that maybe this resolution came before Alberta municipalities prior and hasn't really gone anywhere. So how much time and political capital is going to be spent going after a fairly insignificant amount of money in the scheme of things, and what are the chances of success? So those are my reasons for not supporting this. I would like to put our efforts into other areas instead. So any other comments or discussion?
Well, I don't have a strong feeling either way. I don't see a big downside to it as I guess my feeling. I think it would be somewhat or quite separate. This won't even come before AM until when? October? September, sorry. Yeah, I don't see a big downside, but I don't have a strong feeling either way. I could support the motion.
Councillor Dunham?
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. I agree. I'd rather put our efforts somewhere else, something with a larger pot, as you mentioned. And yeah, like I said, after reading through the materials earlier on, it was such a small amount of money, to put a substantial amount of effort into. So I'm in agreement with your motion.
Councillor Maceros?
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. I'm wondering what kind of an effort does it require to support this motion?
Well, it would go into, if it was passed at convention, then it would go into Alberta municipalities' resolutions, and it would be one of many, many, many resolutions that they would be advocating to the provincial government for, so it just becomes one of hundreds.
And does it become competition for another one? Is that what you're thinking, or?
Well, I guess, I mean, organizations only have so much political capital to spend, and like we are, the Alberta municipalities is certainly in the middle of advocating for a larger local government fiscal framework, money to replace MSI, and I'm just wondering if this kind of gets in the way of that, or the discussion could include this. Well, this was taken away from us, or it was cut off after 2 years, and I'm not even sure that we're expending a lot of money as far as having to enforce any cannabis issues in the community. That's kind of what it was originally designed for, and it came about when cannabis was first legalized, and there was some thought that there could be a lot of issues around cannabis usage and extra enforcement, etc. But I'm not sure that's really come to fruition, certainly in Innisfail anyways. But
And just one more question. I'm just curious about why the town of Rocky Mountain came to Innisfail.
Ironically, Councillor Mazzaros, it's just really kind of random. There's no engagement prior. There's no conversation prior to receiving an email from Town of Rocky asking council to consider. There was no administrative, how about we work on this? There's no advanced conversation.
so, CEO Becker, can they still take this forward at AM themselves?
Mayor Barkley, I believe there's emergence priorities. I would not consider this emergence policy or resolution. I don't think it'd move forward without a seconder.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. I'm just curious about if this is passed, makes it through to AM, it's passed there, what kind of workload will it put back on the municipality? Or will it be up to the producers or suppliers of the cannabis to keep track of it? Like, I'm just struggling with additional work for us. Is there any? Or do you foresee any?
Mayor Barkley, Councillor Harrison, what would happen if this would to advance to the convention and it was passed? It would then be prioritized through AM. If it's high priority, it'd be assigned to a committee. Then they had developed their advocacy recommendations to the AM board. To the town, there's no work. It'd be the work of AM staff.
Just a supplementary then, so at the fall convention, we would speak as a seconder to, or whatever, if we pass this motion?
Mayor Barkley, Councillor Harrison, you'd be asked to consider speaking to the seconder. You don't necessarily have to, but often a seconder takes that opportunity to speak to the resolution.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor to,
Mayor Barkley,
oh, I'm sorry, Councillor Bates.
So just one more question through to CAO Becker. So to your knowledge, if we don't support it, they would have the opportunity to ask someone else to support it?
Mayor Barkley to Councillor Bates, yeah, they have the opportunity. I would guess that the timing is probably running late. So yeah, it's certainly that's an option for the town of Rocky Mountain House to seek another seconder.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have a motion on the table to decline this invitation from the town of Rocky Mountain House. I'll ask who's in favor. Okay, and opposed? Okay, carried, thank you. Okay, we'll move into council action control. And if there's no questions about anything on here, I'll please have someone make a motion that we accept this as information.
I'll make that motion to accept this as information.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Maceras. Questions? No? All in favor? Okay, we'll move into 5.1 on the rates and fees bylaw with Director Vickers.
Yeah, Everyone's favorite part of the meeting. Okay, thank you, Mayor Barkley. So we are bringing forward a draft rates and fees bylaw for council's review and approval. So the MGA does allow council to pass bylaws regarding services provided by the town of Innisfil, which includes the fees charged for providing those services. So we have now consolidated the fees it charges for providing goods and services into our rates and fees bylaw. Now, I will say that this is just the first draft, I guess, and we will be bringing this back in the future to incorporate more bylaws and more rates and fees, but we have to start somewhere, so that's where we are here. Having a consolidated rates and fees bylaw will make it easier for review and update annually. This should go in conjunction with our annual, with our budget every year as well. So the first little section is regarding the rates and fees bylaw itself. So we did only do some minor additions that were not part of a previous bylaw or policy. So the first one was a utility bill history reprint request. Both of these are under finance under the general admin section. There are times in the year where we do get requests for reprints of utility bills or other things like that, normally around tax season, and normally they're asking for a year or two worth of bills all in one go. So we did want to ask to add a charge for that, just so that, because it does take some time, we have to go individually month by month, regenerate and reprint it off. So we did add the $20 fee for that. And then the next thing we added was the interest on overdue invoices. So this is strictly for accounts receivable invoices that are unpaid. We had it at 2%, but we do want to up it to 5%. So that is in line where our utility penalties are as well. So would you like to do the motions at the end or as we go through the report?
Let's do them as we go, Director
Okay,
Vickers.
perfect. So then the first set of motions, I would like the three readings for bylaw 1687-2022, the rates and fees bylaw.
Okay, thank you. Could I please have someone make the first motion? Councillor Harrison?
I so move the council accepts and gives bylaw 1687-2022 rates and fees bylaw first reading.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Councillor Bates?
Yeah, I had a couple of questions as I looked through the details. On page 2, it's just so I'd understand, and then obviously these are not changes, it's something we've done. When we have an appeal filing fee, say for a linear property power generation per facility, so is that if somebody had solar panels on their own property and then wanted to appeal the fee that they were being taxed on that? Is that what that relates to? I'm just trying to figure it out because I've never really looked at that before.
Yeah, so Mayor Barkley through to Councillor Bates. So I'm not sure what the limit is, but once someone gets over a certain level for power generation, it does bring them up into a secondary level. But it is the same for a four or more residential or a commercial. It is, if they want to appeal their taxes, it is a $650 fee. It is non-refundable unless the decision is in their favor, and then they would receive that money back.
Okay. And then what would be an example of other property linear assessment other than power?
Like electricity lines, like the actual lines, like overhead power lines, any TELUS or ATCO gas lines like underground, those kinds of things, that would all be considered linear.
Back to the service provider, not to the property owner?
Right, it goes to the service provider, not the property owner, that's correct.
Okay, no, thanks for that clarification. I just never really contemplated a couple of those things.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we have a motion, first reading, all in favor? Okay, can I please have someone make second reading?
Mayor Barkley, I'll make that motion that council accepts and gives 1687-2022 rates and fees bylaw second reading.
Okay, any questions? Councillor Bates?
Yeah, I have another one. I was looking at my notes and I missed that one. So on page 4, if I look at like building permit fees, and they're shown as per square foot, like the main floor. Someone needs to help me explain the, like $150 per square foot. Is that the price to build it?
So the way the building permits work, so the building permit fee, and if you just kind of by where Kara's hand is there on the page, so the building permit fee is $5.50 per $1,000 of construction.
Right.
So that $150 a square foot, that's how we estimate the construction value.
Okay.
So then you would divide that by 1,000, multiply it by $5.50, which would give you the actual cost for the permit.
Okay. And the reason I asked, as I looked through basement development at $30 a square foot, I know I inquired recently what that might be from a contractor, and it sounded to me like they were well over double that. But
We haven't updated, I think 2019 was the last time we updated these fees. So at this point, with what Erica's doing, we're sort of getting them into this bylaw. But then we haven't done any sort of adjustments to these fees at this time.
so probably doing this again someday.
And that's part of the value of doing this activity that Erica's doing, is that then every fall we can come in and as sort of one agenda or one item, go through and make adjustments to various fee schedules.
Okay, yeah, I wouldn't hold it up for that. Thank you.
Okay, so we have a motion for second reading. All in favor? Okay. I'll have somebody give consideration to third reading, please.
Sorry. I'll make the motion that we give consideration for bylaw 1687, 2022, rates and fees bylaw, third reading.
Okay, all in favor? Okay, and then council accepts and gives third and final.
I'll make that motion that council accepts and gives 1687, 2022 rates and fees bylaw, third and final reading.
Okay, thank you. No further questions. All in favor? Great. Okay, we will move on.
Okay. So the next set of motions in this report is a bylaw to repeal a couple of bylaws that are now obsolete with the passing of the rates and fees bylaw. So it's called 1688-2022 bylaw, which repeals bylaws deemed obsolete following the adoption of the rates and fees bylaw. So the three bylaws that are included in this are the assessment complaint fees bylaw, the tax penalty bylaw, and the planning and development services fees bylaw. So all the rates have been inserted into this rates and fees bylaw with no changes being made. And those bylaws were they only had their fees in it, so now they can be repealed.
Okay,
Thank you.
so please have someone give first reading to the recommended motion.
I so move that council accepts and give number 1688, 2022 bylaw, which repeals bylaws deemed obsolete following the adoption of the rates and fees bylaw, first reading.
Okay, any questions? No, all in favor? And maybe just for the rest of these readings, we could just say second reading for the recommended motion without reading the whole thing. Councillor Bates?
Sure, I'll give second reading to the recommended motion.
Okay, thank you. All in favor? And could somebody please give consideration for third reading?
Mayor Barclay will do so. Give consideration for third reading.
Okay, thank you. All in favor? And then could somebody please give third and final reading?
I'll give third and final reading.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Ms. Harris. All in favor? Okay, great, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mayor Barclay. So the next section, we do have to do an updated solid waste management bylaw, which we needed to do anyway with the introduction of the recycle carts as well. So bylaw 1625-2029 is going to be repealed and replaced with 1689-2022. All fees have been included in the new rates and fees bylaw. References were added to recycling collection carts, and references were removed from recycling receptacles. The cart fee will be the same for all three services, and monthly fees will not change for 2022, as well as a section on the waste transfer station was added to provide details on items that were not accepted. Updated definitions, were alley, the collection cart or cart, excess waste, unit of residential recyclables, and peace officer, just for clarity within the bylaw. And section A, the penalties, will stay within the solid waste bylaw itself. So without any questions, I will.
Okay, thank you. Well, I will give bylaw 1889-2022 solid waste management first reading. Any questions? Councillor Bates?
Mayor Barkley, I think you said 1889, 1689.
All in favor? Okay, could I please have someone give second reading?
Mayor Barkley, I'll do so. That council accepts and gives 1689-2022 solid waste management bylaw second reading.
Okay, thank you. All in favor? We'll have council give consideration to third reading, please.
I'll do that, Mayor Barkley, that council gives consideration for third reading.
Okay, thank you. All in favor? And then that council accepts and gives third and final reading. Councillor Bates.
Sure, I'll move that we give third and final reading to 1689-2022.
Okay, thank you. All in favor? Great.
Okay, thank you, Mayor Barkley. So the next bylaw that needs to be updated is the safety codes permit bylaw. So the previous bylaw, 1584-2015, will be repealed and replaced with 1690-2022, the safety codes permit bylaw. All fees have been included in the new rates and fees bylaw. There was some minor changes that were made. The purpose that was in the original bylaw has been removed. Some definitions updated, the CAO highway and municipal tag. They did update highway to be better in line with the Traffic Safety Act so that they are similar across multiple documents. They updated the time limit for issued permit. So section 9 was updated to remove a specific timeline of 18 months. They did just clean up throughout the bylaw. There was lots of references to Schedule A, which was their fees. So that has now been replaced to the town's current rates and fees bylaw. And just some heading was changed from municipal tag to municipal ticket, and then just formatting and numbering changes. So none of the fees itself were changed.
All right, thank you. So we'll have somebody please give first reading to bylaw 1690-2022.
I'd so move the council accepts and gives 1690-2022 safety codes permit bylaw first reading.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Harrison. Any questions? All in favor? Somebody please give second reading to the recommended motion. Councillor Bates.
I move that we give second reading to 1690-2022.
Okay, thank you. All in favor? Have someone give third reading?
Mayor Barkley, I'll move that council gives consideration to 1690-2022 safety codes permit bylaw third reading.
Okay, thank you. All in favor? And then third and final reading, Councillor Maceros.
I move that we give third and final reading to 1690-2022.
Okay, thank you. All in favor? Okay,
Thank you. Okay, the next bylaw is the cemetery bylaw. So the original bylaw, 1641-2021, will be repealed and replaced with 1691-2022. All fees have been included in the new bylaw with no changes outside of, at the bottom of the original fee schedule, there was a section that said to be increased by 1% per year from date of passage of this bylaw. We have removed that because now this will be part of an annual review process during our budget and will get updated at that point rather than just have a standard 1% automatic increase each year. So now it will be council's discretion annually whether they want to increase or keep the same.
okay, thank you. So please have someone make do first reading of the recommended motion. Councillor Dunham.
Mayor Barclay will make the motion that council accepts and gives 1691-2022 cemetery bylaw first reading.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? All in favor? And second reading, please.
I will move that council gives second reading to this bylaw.
Thank you. All in favor? Yeah, so please give consideration to the third reading.
I'll move that we give consideration to the third reading of 1691-2022.
Thank you. All in favor? And then accept and give third and final reading, please.
I move the council accepts and gives 1691-2022 cemetery bylaw third and final reading.
Great, thank you. All in favor?
Okay, thank you, Mayor Barclay. So the last bylaw that we need to update is the business license bylaw. So we did just bring this back previous, so there is no changes to be made. However, bylaw 1678-2022 will be repealed and replaced with 1692-2022.
Okay, thank you. Could I please have someone give first reading of the recommended motion?
I'll move that we give bylaw 1692-2022 first reading.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? All in favor? Okay, and then second reading, please.
Mayor Barclay, I'll move that council accepts and gives 1692-2022 business license bylaw second reading.
Okay, thank you. All in favor? Okay, and consideration for third reading?
I will move that council gives consideration for third reading.
Thank you. All in favor? And then accepts and gives third and final reading.
I move that council accepts and gives 1692-2022 business license bylaw third and final reading.
Great, thank you. All in favor? Okay, moving on to deposits policy.
Okay. So yes, so we did have a development deposits policy, which now all of the fees are being inserted into the rates and fees bylaw. So we do need to approve the updated 2022-006 development deposits policy, sorry.
Thank you.
Could I please someone make the recommended motion?
I'll move that we approve the 2022-006 development deposits policy.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? All in favor? Okay, and then please, someone make the second motion, please.
Mayor Barclay will make that motion that council repeals 2000-002 cost to provide compliance and tax inquiries and certificates policy. Tongue twister today.
Thank you, Councillor Dunham. Any questions? All in favor? Great, thank you. Thank you, Director Vickers. And thank you to Vanessa, I assume, for doing all that.
Yes, that was very quick. So
It was. Okay, we will move on to 5.2, request for decision on the Small Communities Fund repayment. Director.
Yes, so, thank you, Mayor Barclay. So we are putting this report in front of you to provide council the options for the repayment of the Small Communities Fund, or SCF, to the Government of Alberta Grants and Education Property Tax Branch. So we have been working with the province on some advocacy about the grant. We were connected to the South Redger Regional Wastewater System in 2015 as mandated by the provincial government. As a result, our old sewage lagoons became obsolete, and we did receive a grant under the SCF, or formerly known as the Building Canada Grant Fund, to decommission the lagoon land and improve the wastewater system. So we did receive a grant of $9 million, 2/3 which would be received by the provincial and federal government. In May 2017, the town was approached about selling a portion of the land within the lagoon area, igniting this advocacy work, which past and present councils have maintained for the sale of the remediated lagoon lands. During the Alberta Municipalities 2021 Fall Convention, council met with Municipal Affairs Minister Rick McIver to discuss the negative economic effects the landhold has held, and with recent inquiries could have on the town's ability to attract and retain industrial business. Due to the unyielding support from MLA Devin Dreeshen, Minister Rick McIver, and Premier Kenny, the town has received confirmation that the cost of refunding the federal government will be split equally between the town and the province. So the province did give us a grant under the APC to pay for their portion of the funds we need to repay to the federal government. However, the federal government is requiring that we pay our half within 30 days of the notice of one of the letters, which was last week sometime. So we are looking at a motion from council to decide where we're gonna pull it from. So claims submitted by the town identified that the total remediation and improvement costs for that portion of the project were just over, or just under $4.8 million. So of that amount, $1,594,294 was funded by the federal government. So of that, we do need to split the costs equally. So each party is going to be responsible for $797,147. Again, so we do have to pay to the government of Alberta within 30 days of receiving that notice. Administration is recommending that this payment be funded from the stabilization reserve, just because that it is a reserve that we don't use generally, but there is a few other options. So our general cap reserve at the end of 2022 is sitting with a balance of $1,026,000. The stabilization will be sitting at 1.368 million, and the land acquisition will be sitting at just over 3 million. So yeah. So we are looking for a motion that council authorizes the repayment of the Small Communities Fund in the amount of $797,147 to the Government of Alberta, funded from the Stabilization Reserve.
Okay,
I'd so move the council authorizes the repayment of the Small Communities Fund in the amount of $797,147 to the Government of Alberta, funded from the Stabilization Reserve.
I'm curious, Director Vickers, if, if the land acquisition reserve fund would, just because that's where money's going to be going from the sale, and does it?
Yes, Mayor Barkley, that was an option, Mayor Barkley, but because we already have that other approved project, the underground infrastructure that could be earmarked to come out of that reserve if we need to, I didn't want to use too much out of that money until we knew for sure. We could always, after that's done, we could maybe repurpose some of that money back into the wastewater stabilization reserve once we know for sure whether or not we are going to be receiving that loan to fund the underground work.
Sure, that makes sense, thank you. Okay, Councillor Bates?
Yeah, the only question I had is, through this entire process, did we ever see any glimmer of hope from the federal government that they would understand and never?
I believe that they have, sorry, Mayor Barkley through to Councillor Bates, I believe that they have said no, right?
Yeah, I know they said no. I was
Yeah.
just wondering if anybody through the last 4 years or whatever it is has even said that our request makes sense, but thank you.
No, and nobody, 4 years ago, nobody at any government thought the request made sense, so at least we've partway there. Okay, so we have a motion on the floor. All in favor? Okay, carried, thank you. Okay, and we will move on to 6.1, request for decision with Director Jenkins.
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. So this is a follow-up from the report that was presented last week at the A&P meeting regarding the Partners in Climate Protection Program. So we're looking for a formal resolution from council to commit to that program to allow us to access the resources and networking that go along with this program. Again, it's a result of a partnership between FCM and the International Council for Local Environmental Initiatives, and sort of sets us on a path for a 10-year commitment to work through a 5-step framework to evaluate and then create an action plan to address greenhouse gas emissions. So at this time, we're looking for the recommended motion as well. I believe Mayor Barkley expressed interest last week in being the sort of elected official identified within the motion, but that is open for your discussion as well.
Did you want us to read this whole thing? Okay, thank you. Yeah,
Just an identification of whose name will go in the blank for Kara.
okay, thank you. Councillor Harrison?
I'd so move that it be further resolved that the town of Innisfail appoint the following: Megan Jenkins, Director of Community Services, and Mayor Barkley, Town of Innisfail Councillor, to oversee the implementation of the Partners for Climate Protection Program and to be the points of contact for the Partners for Climate Protection Program within the municipality.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion, questions? Councillor Dunham?
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. I'd just like to say that I am very excited to see what resources this opens up for us. And, you know, 10-year commitment is a long time, but I think what we will get out of it far outweighs any effect to your capacity, you know, and I trust our administration's ability to gauge what their capacity is to do this. But yeah, for me, it's all about what resources we're going to be able to access and what the outcomes of that will be. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Dunham. Okay, all in favor? Okay, carried, thank you. So we will move on to 7.1, to correspondence and information. Just want to point out number 2, Discovery Wildlife Park is looking for a letter of support. So I will make a motion that we give them a letter of support for their application to the Tourism Relief Fund. Anybody have any questions about that? Okay, all in favor? Also want to point out the, can you just scroll down, please, Kara? The number 3, the Provincial Championship U13, so that's pretty exciting to be happening in Innisfail. Hopefully we'll get out and see some games, and I trust that information will be passed on to Chamber. Okay, or yeah. So I'll just have someone please make a motion that we accept the correspondence as information.
Mayor Barkley, I'll make that motion.
Okay, thank you. All in favor? Great, thank you. Okay, and we will go to council reports, starting with Councillor Maceras.
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. Well, it was a quiet week last week, just the council meeting and MPC, and another quiet week ahead. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Dunham?
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. Yeah, last week was a bit of a quiet one. Tuesday, I attended with yourself and CEO Becker the Ellis Fabrication meeting. Once again, great to see another facility in town and to hear what they're doing and the potential growth for them if they can find the labor and the people to do the work. Was, you know, once again, one of those hidden facilities in town that had not seen before, so great to see that. And also, as of Sunday, I will be away for a couple of weeks until August 2nd. I will be logging in if possible, but I will be overseas with the large time difference, so I will do my best.
Thank you. And Councillor Bates?
Okay. So last week I attended MPC and briefly the Market on Main in the rain. As a secondary to Councillor Hysted, I went to the Historical Village meeting. They're having their challenges with student employment. Did have another resignation, and they're not getting a whole lot of applications to fill that. The barbecue with the skate park is still pending, I guess, our employee back to the village saying when they would like to go ahead and do that. They've come up with a kind of a last-minute Children's Day that they intend to run this Friday. I believe our Facebook page is probably going to carry the support of that. They volunteer to run the tourist booth on weekends whenever the chamber's not there. And I did hear one of their volunteers mention that I think the previous weekend to this meeting, that they'd had 2 or 3 people actually say they were considering moving to Innisfail that had dropped in. It caused me to wonder, do we have over and above all the brochures that we have for Innisfail, would we have a little pocket checklist of, if you're thinking, if you hear somebody that's thinking of moving to Innisfail, of where you would refer them for information other than brochures? Or I thought about it afterwards. I didn't even click during the meeting, but it's just something that because these folks, for instance, the one staff that, she mentioned the things she was aware of at her aging category, but there would probably be a generic, just throwing it out there, that maybe could come out with something that would help people that aren't tuned to what does Innisfail have, again, other than all of our brochures. I also attended the Rotary Golf Tournament, which was very enjoyable, and I think for the Rotary Club, extremely successful fundraiser. And I'm going to precipitate this next part by saying this is humor I'm trying to give you, because we did have a little bit of a serious discussion earlier, but I've come up with a new funding model for the province, and that would be dump all the money into one big pot, and we'll send our mayors out there for a golf tournament to see who gets it. I do have the Mountain View Water Commission this week, and that's it.
Thank you, Mayor Barkley, and I fully concur with Councillor Bates. I took our mayor give some pointers, and I think they were well received. I could hit the ball after the first 9 holes. So, but yeah, it was a fairly quiet week for me. Also, I attended the Market on Main, but I attended the age-friendly display that was there. I believe it. I'd just like to pass along. I've seen the concrete contractor in town here, the curb and gutter, and it looks really good what they're doing. And some of that curb is pretty old, and it really brightens up the boulevards. So I pass that along. Further to Councillor Bates's comments around I look at sort of a welcome wagon package for new residents. I know welcome wagon used to, after the resident moved, they went around, but maybe, and I support that idea, Councillor Bates, about having a quick 3 or 4 page, here's what Innisfail is, right? So maybe that's a discussion for an AMP meeting or something, but I fully support it. Market and I received some feedback at Market on Main from 1 or 2 individuals regarding the taxi schedule. They were wondering what's going to happen. They can't get a ride from the lodges or their manors to town or downtown after 5 p.m. I know the van or the bus that's being operated by the Legion shuts off at 4:30, and if there's no taxi, they have no way to get downtown for dinner if they so wish, or whatever. So I guess the question that I have through to Director Jenkins is, have we heard about fixing that schedule? And if they can't supply, then maybe there's a discussion that needs to take place with our operator of the existing bus, like the Legion, and maybe they can adjust a driver's schedule over there to cover that time period after 4:30 to maybe 8:30 or 9 o'clock. So that's all I had. Thank you, Mayor Barkley.
Mayor Barkley, through to Councillor Harrison. So I have been in talks with our current taxi company. They did indicate that they did previously have 3 drivers, 2 of which are on leave currently, so they do only have 1 driver, so they are just unable to provide services 24 hours a day right now. I did, however, receive an inquiry for an application for a second driver. That person is in getting all their stuff. They need to get a criminal record check and their driver's abstract. So they're busy doing that right now. I would anticipate probably by next week they'd be ready to get on the road. As well, we're in the early stages of discussing with another company who wants to come into town and create their own new taxi company. So that could be coming within the next couple of weeks. So we are looking at it. I'm not sure about any of the Pace bus, but that's for the taxi information.
Yeah, I'm just trying to pull up the hours, because the Pace Bus does operate some evening hours, it's not every day, but I was just trying to find the schedule, because I don't know it off the top of my head. But there are some nights where they are.
Yeah, I believe it's Friday night.
Friday nights and Saturdays.
Friday evening.
So, but yeah, we can discuss that through Transportation Committee if we aren't able to fulfill the need.
Mayor Barkley, if I could just make a comment, I think one of the things we have to be a little bit cautious of is, especially if we're looking at potentially getting a new company in, if we ask our provider to work longer hours, it makes it less attractive for a new company to come in too. Like it's all a balance, so just a thought.
Through to Councillor Bates, yeah, I totally agree. We shouldn't be competing with the private sector. However, we don't have a service now, and it would be for like an interim fix. Thank you.
Okay. All right, so last week went to a business visit with Ellis Fabrication with CEO Becker, and Councillor Dunham met Jim Foley and Scott Smith, and it was excellent. They certainly are open to having all of council come. In the near future, they do have barbecues every now and again, and they would like us to attend, and they would also be able to show us, give us a tour of the facility. It's about 74,000 square feet. Tuesday was at Market on Main, and the sun finally did come out, so it was a beautiful evening. Must say I'm very impressed with the market manager. Had a good chat with her, and she's very keen on building that market up, and it was impressed with what I heard. If we do happen to go out to Rocky sometime, she would love to join us if that's possible. On Wednesday, I had lunch with Marg and Del Fair. They were the recipients of lunch with the mayor. And that was a lot of fun. We went to Petro's, and then the afternoon I met with Devin Dreeshen just to kind of bring him up to speed with what's happening in Innisfail and have a bit of a chat about various things. One of them was a little bit of advocacy work on behalf of the Innisfail Healthcare Center, and funding for the widening the ambulance doors, because the ambulance has not been able to drive in to the bay for about 3 years, 2.5 to 3 years. So he was going to reach out to Jeff Hamill, the manager. Then Thursday, I played in the Rotary Golf Tournament with Councillor Harrison and Bates and friend Cheryl Dewick. It was very, very enjoyable day. I understand that the tournament was sold out with upwards of 90 sponsors, so a great day for Rotary, and even a better day for the outdoor rink. So we'll see what those totals get to eventually. But and then on Friday, I had lunch with Glenn Fox, chairman of Equus. It was a good meeting, and looking forward to continuing to strengthen our relationship with Equus. So I think that is about it from me. We'll move into open microphone session. Is there anybody online, Kara, that would like to say anything or have any questions? No? Okay, then we'll move on to upcoming events.
Mayor
Looking forward.
Barkley.
Yep.
Yeah, I just want to say that I'm going to Tim Hortons. I'm booked into that, and also RD Mug has a tour of the Dixon Dam on the 18th that I'll be attending.
Good, sounds like fun. Yeah, I'll see you at Timmy's as well. I'll just have somebody please make a motion. We accept this for information.
Mayor Barkley, I have two
Oh,
questions.
I'm sorry. Okay.
One would be to Councillor Harrison, then usually when they had those tours, they would kind of open that up to other people. Are they? Like, are they opening it if other councillors from here would like to go out there? Or?
Through to Councillor Bates, not in the email that I got, but what I'll do is I'll follow up with their exec director over there with Rudy Friesen and find out. And if that's the case, yes, I'll make sure everybody gets a notice. I'll contact them tomorrow.
It's extremely interesting if you can.
Yeah, for sure.
And
Who
then-
would,
oh,
oh,
sorry.
go ahead.
And then the other question I had is, with all those motions, I can't keep track. Did we officially cancel the AMP? I'm sorry, thank you.
Okay, so I'll have somebody make a motion to accept this as information, please. Come.
Mayor Barkley, I'll make that motion.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Dunham. All in favor? Great. And we'll have someone make a motion to adjourn if there's nothing else.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Mercedes. All in favor? Thank you.
Recording stopped.